Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Unfiltered and Intentional. Um, this topic here is a serious one. We're talking about the trial of George Floyd. But before we get into all that, definitely want to pass it over to Specs.
Like and subscribe. We are unfiltered, we are intentional, and we are here for you. We are the same community. We all love each other, but we need to be here for each other. So we need you to like and subscribe and share. Like,
Thanks.
subscribe, and share. Okay.
It's so silly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that being said, I know we are missing one more host, and that is Ty, but Ty is with us. So I know that she'll be commenting. We love you, Ty. Thank you. We love the colored lipsticks and all the commentary that you have.
Exactly.
Miss
Yes,
ya.
yes. So, and she definitely keeps it unfiltered. So we definitely miss that. But just getting back to some serious things at hand, we're talking about the trial of George Floyd, and I know some people are at work and maybe they're not tuning in, but you see the highlights, when they play it on the news, and this is what's going on, the new developments. We want justice for George Floyd. Point blank, period. End of discussion. We'll talk about the trial in a second. I want to actually ask the last question, the very first question. If there is a not guilty verdict, what do you predict, Specs and Liz?
It wouldn't be good. It would be bad.
It would be horrible because you're saying that a man literally got lynched. Like you saw the life leave him slowly. It was so intentional and so grueling. And the cop was to get off, cop, no cop, whoever, just get off from doing that. The disrespect for our lives would be horrible, and people would it would be terrible. It would be terrible on so many levels. But sometimes you guys shake it up. So like if that happens, we need to sometimes you gotta burn it down. So this cannot be the norm. This cannot what happened cannot be the norm.
Okay. So, okay. What about you, Liz?
Absolutely. I don't advocate for violence. But God, if not this, what? I mean, I remember, and it's easy to talk about it now without getting overly worked up. But last year, George Floyd died on my birthday.
Wow.
And I'm not usually a really emotional person. Pretty much who you see right now, this is me. You know what I mean? The most worked up I get.
Gemini.
You guys have seen me on the show. Yeah, I'm pretty much, I'm here all the time. I have opinions about everything, but I don't get emotional. I don't shed a lot of tears. I'm not that person. There was no way that you could watch what happened. And I mean, if I dare you, if you haven't already, to watch the entire video, the whole thing. It was broad daylight. There were witnesses everywhere from every angle. Just the girl that filmed this was a teenager. She was a child. She filmed somebody that could have easily been her dad, her uncle. She said that on the stand this week. This child had to take the stand this week. You know what I mean? This is what childhood looks like, in for Black kids in America, right? The other little girl that was with her was 7. And stood there, and they stood there and watched. And it's funny because one thing we never talk about is they knew better than to approach the cop. Everybody around knew better than to go push him off of him, because I think we would have lost more than one life that day.
Right.
Had any of those witnesses actually walked over and tried to push him or move him or it could have been even more tragic than it was. So imagine the discipline that these children had to have to know that something extremely gruesome and wrong was happening. and they stayed, which is important. I think they don't get enough credit. That child was 17 years old, and she very calmly, in a situation where you know for a fact that she had to be trembling on every level, inside, outside of everything, and she knew to record it,
Yeah.
because that's the most she could have done for George Floyd in that moment.
So just to tell the audience, I mean, I know I want to say majority of Americans, at least 90% know the story. But of course, there may be some people that just like, hey, I seen something, heard something, but I just don't watch the news. I don't go outside. I am a hermit. Just to kind of give you some type of reference to, and I don't even want to say this officer's name, but let me just share my screen with you just to give you an image of what happened, if I may. This police officer right here kneeled on his neck for a total of 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Last year, when people were protesting and going through the things that they were going through, we came to the realization, well, they were saying that it was 8 minutes and about 40 something seconds, but to be actually honest, they found out that there was another time, and then that was the 9 minutes and 29 seconds. While I work from home during the day, the TV is on in the background, and to see the different angles from the police perspective to the old man that testified today and broke down in tears when he seen it. Because I guess the argument of the defense is like, well, wait a second, this guy, he was resisting arrest. And I like to play devil's advocate sometimes. I see both perspectives. But with that being said, when do you say enough is enough? If the person is already handcuffed, if you have two other officers who you don't see in the clip at the bottom of where his legs are, his thighs and legs holding him down, when do you, and I don't say his name, officer, decide that this is enough? So for 4 minutes, oh my God, he's moving around like a beast. Oh my God. The 5th minute, the 6th minute, the 7th. Don Lemon on CNN put a timer up for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. And we were able in my household to have a conversation, change my daughter's clothes. I think we changed the channel and came back on. 9 minutes is a long time. And he had his hands in his pockets. There was no emotion. He was so detached. To answer the question that I asked you to, where do I see this going if he is found not guilty or he's found on a lesser charge, getting chumped up change or gets an appeal of some sort? I think this is going to go haywire. The odds of these things are normally not in our favor. I don't want to say this is the breaking point, because Tamir Rice getting shot within seconds. There's so many names that we can have. I mean, if we could tell all the names who've gotten shot and killed by police, the show would be over. We're still reading names.
But this was slightly different. You ever see somebody get shot? And I've seen a few. Yeah, it's a pow. Oh, 9 minutes to kill somebody slowly is something that most people in the service that went to war have never seen. To kill somebody that slowly and have no feeling.
Torture.
Right. So that was torture. That's a specific amount of people that have
time out real quick, guys. Right now it's 9 minutes and 51 seconds. That means for as long as we were talking is exactly how long this man had his knee on his neck. Go ahead, Specs.
Right. So think about that much time. And it took, and it was slow, and he begged for his life.
Yeah.
And people say, could you put, and they had people, they had a, what is that? She was a firefighter.
Yeah, she was a firefighter.
She's a firefighter or
EMT. She was EMT.
EMT walked up to them and said, hey, I'm an EMT, blah, blah. And they said, like step back, no. And then she said, well, I could walk you through it.
Yeah. Check his pulse.
Right. And they I'm sorry, I'm stuttering, ignored her. So for saying that, this was intentional. There was no, this was no mistake. This was intentional. They intended to kill him. You cannot tell me that there's no proof that they didn't. That this was not a mistake. You don't have 4 bodies on one body, and you can press all your weight, you got 4 people. So let's say the average person was 150 pounds, and that's 150. You got 4 of them on one person. How do you?
So there's actually 3. There was 3 police officers on him at that time when he was laying down. Officer Tao, and I cannot wait for he does it. I can't wait till he does his time. Oh my God, his day in court coming.
3 bodies.
Yes,
so 2 bodies on him, hold him down, and 1 on his neck. They intended to kill him.
So not to play devil's advocate in this situation. It's too serious. But just to pose the question, why do you think there is a group of people, including Candace Owens, a lot of conservatives that was like, wait a second, we found fentanyl, we found this, he had an enlarged heart, he was not eating right, man, did he eat pork rinds before? I mean, why do you also you think
it's always worked. Why did she wear that dress? Why did she walk out in that?
Yeah, it's funny. That's where I was going to go. We did a show recently. I'm sorry, but we did a show recently where it came up. We were talking about Philando Castile. And he was high. That's why he's dead. And I mean, and we could always do that. I have a question, and I don't know the answer, but I know in this country, I don't know how many countries in the world where the penalty for being high or intoxicated or under the influence is death or execution.
Well,
I don't know where that exists.
So I'll say this from the previous show when we talked about Mr. Castillo, it wasn't that he's high, he dies. That scenario was I think this is the same thing for even this scenario. We have to start thinking that we have a target on our back. We cannot move as if everything is okay. I think the average person that walks around feels and moves as if, you know what, I'm going to go home today and I'm going to make me some lamb chops, and everything is moving fine. Because and it's not out of fear. It's not out of fear the way that I move. Because of course, I just happen to be blessed that I am not on a drug addiction. I know people that have been on drug addictions. My father died associated with drug addiction. But with that being said, though, we have to move strategically, like a chessboard, if I was to say. If I know right now that we're on this chess game and you got all the men and all the pieces on your side, I just got a couple of little pawns on my side, I have to move strategically. So for that episode, and even here, it's unfortunate that, yes, he may have had some type of drugs in his system. Does it justify him being killed? No, it doesn't. Mr. Castillo, it didn't justify him being killed, but I still think the mindset of us, we have to think differently. How many people do you know, Specs and Liz, that walk around as if everything is okay? I mean, I see it just looking outside the window, it's a sunny day, got my top down, but and go ahead.
Most people do live like that, and I'm not saying they shouldn't. I grew up at a wild place in a wild time. So I always walk with my head on the swivel.
Yeah.
But I know how to turn it off. So when I'm at work, I'm the happy Negro,
Yeah, you were saying that earlier.
Like I'm cool. But when I walk out of those doors, and I always walk with a swivel, I always look at, when I see people, I look at them in their face. I look at them in their eye. I don't care who you are. I need you to know that I notice you and I see you. So, but that's intentional. But most people don't walk around with that slight paranoia. but that has saved my life several times.
Yeah.
But most people, it's a hard way to live, and most people don't live there.
That is true. No, you're right. You're right.
But for us, they will always victim blame. It's always our fault. They will always take the narrative and be like, well, you did something. You should have been wearing a hoodie. You should have been buying Skittles. You shouldn't have. There's always something. Well, 2 years ago, you got suspended. So that's why you got shot today.
Yeah.
What? So they will always do that. Our job is to bring the narrative back to us and write our own story. Because they will try to tell us who we are.
Yeah.
You're not kneeling for police beating up people. You're kneeling because you don't like the flag. I never said that. Who are you to tell me my story?
Wow.
So when they stop them like, you sound crazy, but this is why. This is my story. And when they started, stop them.
But it's hard to do that if the president at that time said these MFs who are kneeling.
He has people that follow him. And I was at Lowe's. I was working part-time at Lowe's. And I had people bring that up and I would stop him. Like, no. That makes no sense. And we never said that. And when they bring it back up, no.
He was like,
it's stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm the person. Look at me. I'm representing black because I'm black. You're not. That was never a thing. That was never a thing. And I'll say that. No, that was never a thing. But I'm being respectful. But I'm still like, that was never a thing. No, and I'll stop them just dead in their tracks. Like, you don't need to say all that because it doesn't matter. It's not true. So from the horse's mouth, here we go. And then they will either look frustrated or be like, okay, because I'm not going to allow you to say that buffoonery to me about me. No.
Liz,
I don't give you that right. I'm sorry.
Let me ask. No, it's okay. No, Liz, let me ask you this. Do you think that? So I think it was around Valentine's Day. There was a police station that got hemmed up. They're trying to find. I don't know if they even found out who did it, but they were under investigation because the Valentine's Day card that was being passed around said "Take my breath away," in regards to the whole George Floyd incident. And this was in California. Do you think that if he is found guilty, this will have a serious impact in regards to police brutality? Or you think this is just, if he was found guilty, okay, they made an example out of him, but it's just going to be another, like we just won one, but there's so many other. Like, do you think this will be a impactful change? Like, hey, something's really going on.
I wish. I don't think that it'll be as impactful as it should within the community of and not all police are corrupt, but within the corrupt police, brotherhood, if you would, they he'll just be the dumb one that got caught. You know what I mean? They might get slicker about it. They might get a little more covert about it, but I don't think that it'll have the change that it should have. And one thing that I kind of wanted to say, since the top of our midweek recap here, I know that when you mentioned it, Kia, you said it. And you're not the only one, but I've heard it referred to a lot as the George Floyd case or the George Floyd trial. George Floyd is not on trial. We need to stop talking about, what he had in his system and what was going on. This is not the George Floyd trial. And I think that as a community, we all have to get really, really, really intentional and start correcting. He is not on trial. He's dead.
Right.
Period. He is not on trial. And the sad thing is, if he was here, he would be on trial and he would be convicted. And there would be no doubt in our minds. He is not the one on trial. This is about his execution in broad daylight. So we can talk about it as the murder of George Floyd. We could talk about it as the public execution of George Floyd. We could talk about a lot of things, but it is not the George Floyd trial. He is not on trial.
I'm sorry.
You're not the only one. I've heard it. When I tell you, I've heard it 100 times today. Have you seen the George Floyd trial? And we're so used to it being our trial. First of all, you know what I mean? Let's start there, right? This is the trial of that guy. I won't say his name. I'm very, very big on that. I will not speak power to his name. He's not worthy of even existing.
That's the reason why.
But it's this is about the execution of this man in broad daylight with dozens of witnesses, and this person acting without a care in the world because he just knew he was untouchable. And that's the problem.
Right.
No. It breaks my heart to it breaks my heart when I see the video over and over again. There's a time when the video does not have any sound, and you can just see. I've seen someone very close to me die in front of me, and it's not a pretty sight. Being around somebody that says to you, "Oh, you know he's going to get off because George Floyd had, opioids inside of him," it's hurtful. I think it's just as hurtful as the police officers that stood by and watched. I feel that they're cowards. I feel that the new footage that has came out showed that even when they tapped on the glass to get him, initially they tapped with their guns. They had their guns drawn already, which is not protocol. I can't wait to see the trial tomorrow. I think tomorrow or the next day they're going to have the police captain. And that's the first time ever something like that has came on where the police captain is going to condemn those tools that these officers took. I know this is just the beginning, guys, of the trial. I know the title says Trial of George Floyd. I'm sorry, Liz. I put that there only because I didn't want to say his name, the trial of officer, blah, blah, blah. I could have used something else. So pardon me on not being creative on that. But in such a somber moment, what really stuck to me was hearing him call his mother's name out. She had died a week ago. And this grown man is calling his mother's name out. And I know you could just feel the pain. And anybody who doesn't is like, do you have a heart? Like, where's your humanity? To be continued, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sad.
I don't think that this is going to be the end of police brutality and on police officers abusing their power. I want to say that this has been an eye opener for America to see, and now corporations are talking about it. The Black Lives Matter movement, affiliated with the NBA now, and they're locking arms in solidarity. But I honestly think that we need more than just locking arms. I have to say that Specs, I use the words a little bit differently than you when you started the conversation. But if he does not get convicted, there's going to be a lot of things happening, and you definitely have to be prepared for a continuation of happening in the summertime. Any last words, Specs and Liz?
This execution did change a lot around the world for how they see police and how they treat Black people. Before this, when you said Black Lives Matter, it was a kind of a small kind of group. It was an American, it was kind of small kind of group. When you saw the execution, it changed. Everybody was like, you can't deny this. And like you said, if you're not upset, you have no soul. And I think that was the change that when I saw, I was like, wow, the whole world is now like justice for George Floyd. And I had never seen the whole world move.
Yeah.
So this is a moment. So we need to take this moment and don't let it like fade away with this trial. This needs to go on and go on so this never happens again. There should be no safe place for anybody that has that job so they can do this. There should be no safe. They should fear their job and going to jail forever. Because right now, I don't think they have that fear. They need to have that fear.
Yeah.
And we need to not let this moment stop here. But this needs to be the beginning of this change.
Go ahead, Liz.
I think I'm going to reserve my words and my thoughts for the end of all this. It's something that gets me supercharged. Um, and it's unforgettable, all of it. The watching the video, the feelings that we had during that, the vindication a little bit, I think, with the community always saying that this is what's happening, and everybody's like, yeah, you're always complaining about something. Finally, the world got to see it, and I mean, and thank God again for that teenage girl and what she did. But other than that, as far as this child's concerned, I'm gonna just
Yeah.
I'm just praying for the right outcome, and I'll reserve anything else until that's done.
Totally understandable. My last comments and thoughts is just to say, if you're not able to watch, of course, the trial during the day, please, watch the highlights after, when work is over or whatever have you. Of course, we have our cell phones. We can always tune in and chime in that way if you don't, have a television in front of you. But I encourage people to stop thinking about themselves and work as a community. If we move together, and the key word is we, if we move together, then we can accomplish so many things. I think that the powers that be know this. And since they know this, they do everything under the sun to try to separate that and try to get our minds off the prize. But at the end of the day, there will be an awakening. I don't have the date or the time. You guys can take that however you want it. I know that the Secret Service and the ABC boys, all the little alphabets that they represent, they know when, because they always listening somehow. But there's a thing that said the revolution will not be televised. And I definitely
on YouTube.
We'll be talking about it, right? We'll talk about the revolution, but just make sure that you like and subscribe to our page. Unfiltered and intentional. We love you guys. We can't wait to talk to you this Sunday at 8 p.m. We're going to go live, and we're going to be talking with a special guest about prepping for an active shooter, because for some strange reason, when we talk about the subject now, it's like on a one-day talk, and then we change the subject to Little Nas X. Like, how are we not talking about the active shooters? It was like back to back, but that's a whole nother topic. Bye, guys. Have a great night. Bye.
See ya.